Hi, I'm Mia Pearlman, Vice President of the LPA and Managing Director of Affinity Property Group. I'm here with my guests today, Sean Cannon from Panorama, Sales Director, Sean Woolley, Managing Director of Cloud9, and Peter Franke from Franke de la Fuente, Abogado Law Firm. Thank you so much, guys, for coming to join us today.
A pleasure, Mia. Thank you.
We're here today to talk about the epicenter, which is Marbella, the powerhouse of the Mediterranean right now, with luxury properties and high net worth individuals coming in force to our coastline and really snapping up property, I would say. However, I'd really like to see your take on things and how you feel the market's going and what we've got to look forward to, what your experiences are from the previous year. So if I start with you, Sean, tell me, what's your typical buyer right now?
Typical buyer, really, it's difficult to pin it down to that. We have quite a range of nationalities purchasing with us at the moment. And yeah, obviously the English, the British are still very strong, probably accounting for 20% of our sales, followed by the Dutch and the Swedish. And then behind that, you probably have the likes of Belgium, Germany, and France. So all looking for a deal, which is quite difficult to find at the moment because the market is moving at such a pace. But yeah, a widespread of clientele. At the moment, I think in the last 3 years, we've sold to 45 different nationalities on our own office. So a wealth, an extreme variety of clients, and always a pleasure to deal with whichever nationality appears at our doorstep.
Are they younger than they have been in the previous years?
Absolutely, yeah. We would say that in the past, when I first started here, maybe 15, 20 years ago, there was definitely an older clientele that was coming here to purchase. But in the last 5 years in particular, especially after COVID, we've seen that profile drop significantly to probably somewhere around the late 30s. And the wealthy kind of, a lot of these guys are coming in, they're involved in tech, particularly from the Scandinavian countries as well, coming here to settle. And that's the big change that we've seen in the last couple of years, that it's moved from kind of a holiday destination to a full-time destination here in Marbella.
Yeah, I've seen that as well a little bit. And I always am intrigued to find out what they do for a living
Yeah, me too.
because they are very young. We've heard this, are they Bitcoin millionaires? Are they AI? Are they this? But what do you find in that category?
Yeah, a lot of them have to be actually involved in IT. We find a lot of that clientele that are spending at that level, at the high level properties. They tend to be either involved in Bitcoin or again in IT on one side of things as well.
So have you had a Bitcoin millionaire that literally made money overnight?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we've had a couple of them actually come in, and we were delighted to receive them.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And Sean number two, tell us, in your opinion on this coastline, do you think there's any still untapped areas that might be undiscovered? It's still great for investment, a little bit quieter than the rest of the coastline.
I think since COVID, and COVID was the big game changer in my opinion, this is where Marbella version 2 really took off. And of course, since COVID, we've seen a glut of foreign buyers, or like Sean said, looking to make a move to a better life and a better location. And of course, we're running out of land, and we're running out of options, suitable options at suitable prices. Even, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's very difficult to find something you want that ticks all those boxes. So what we're finding is that people are heading further from the epicenter because they're having to, because their budgets won't stretch as far as they would like in the I suppose the established areas. So we're finding people heading for the hills, or just having to go to the extremes. That's not the right word. Extent of the area that we're talking about for the Costa del Sol. So maybe down towards Soto Grande, where there's still, I think, pockets of value, and maybe a little bit further towards the other way, like Fuencarola, Benalmádena. I mean, the success of the Higueron projects has been incredible. You know, now a 2-bed apartment in Higueron West, like 600, 700,000 euros, whereas probably 4 or 5 years ago, you could have bought a villa for that in a similar area. So I think we're seeing the demand having to go to different areas just to find those pockets. And I think anything up in the hills, and I would say that, you may think, because obviously we have a base in Montemayor. But what we've found is that since COVID particularly, people are looking for peace, privacy, security, and views. And it's very hard to find all those things. I think people now, they want to bring their families over, so they want it to be safe. So the gated communities are becoming more more popular. And I think that people want a bit of space around them, particularly if they're coming from a city, and particularly if they're leaving the family to commute and go back and forwards. I think people are looking for all those things. So head for the hills, ladies and gents. Head for the hills.
So would you say that more people are buying villas over apartments and townhouses? Is that ratio changing?
Yeah, we've noticed that. I think because again, I think people want their own space. I think for a holiday home, it's a different argument, isn't it? You know, you want something that's going to be far more lockable and leavable. So we have a lot of clients who come here for a holiday home. They think they want a villa, but by the end of it, they bought a luxury apartment instead, because of the benefits of communal living and the fact that it is a safe and easy investment to manage. But when they're coming here and living here, 24/7, 12 months of the year, again, it's a different argument entirely. And a lot of people want their own space, particularly if they've got young kids, they want their own pool, garden, or pets, or whatever. So, yeah.
I mean, I find that a lot of people, because they're having children a lot later, our market 10 years ago used to be the average 50-year-old that was retiring. Now the average 50-year-old's on their second child, with a newborn in hand. It's a really different environment now.
It's true. And I think, a lot of marriages aren't lasting, so they're onto the second or third marriage, which is great. And I think I'm not talking personally, I think that, again, we've had clients like that recently who are in their 40s and 50s, becoming parents for the first time. And they're looking for a bit of everything.
Stability, lifestyle, luxury. Yeah, we've got it all on this coastline, that's for sure. And Peter, tell me, you deal with more transactions than all of us put together, I'm sure. So you get the real idea of the clientele and how difficult, easy, open they are to this process. I mean, by the time you get the client, they've obviously made a decision on things. But do you find that you're doing more apartment transactions, villa transactions? What nationalities are they?
I can agree with what we see in the office right now. And I think that's the last 1.5, 2 years is a widespread of nationalities. I can't pinpoint down, one country really. And we were working a lot with the Swedish market, I would say 3-4 years ago. That has changed. We have, and that's the fun and interesting part of the job, of course, is that you get the chance to meet people from all over the world, basically. And that is a big change. So the other day I was talking to a Slovakian gentleman. The day before that, I was in conversations with a Swedish couple, and they were talking to me about schools, relocating their businesses. And so I think that the conversations that we have now with clients are much different than 4 or 5, 10 years ago, even more, right? So now they want to know how the life is here to live here, and how also they can integrate work-wise.
And they already have a profession, I guess, and they're going to be doing that remotely from here, or they're moving their businesses here? How does
but I mean, both, you have all kinds of scenarios. So clients interesting they have a restaurant, a group of restaurants in Sweden. Now they're looking into this market. Can we do the same?
Right.
Here, and they have also now examples to follow. So we had a couple of pioneers, I'm sure, throughout the years, and now we have a track record that you can actually do it. It gets easier. I think the mental barrier is already down, so to speak, and people are now jumping on this possibility, this adventure, this dream more easily.
And do you find that they obviously come to you for tax advice as well? And if they're moving their businesses over here, obviously that's a big part of the equation. Do you have the benefits? Can you tell us the benefits versus the negatives on taxation here for people bringing over their business, buying a house here? Is there any kind of untapped tax break that we should all know about?
I couldn't say in general. First of all, I'm not a tax advisor in the law firm. We have other much better equipped people for that, Spanish tax advisors. But it is true that, and I'm sure that both Chance here and yourself would agree that their clients are more talking about these kind of things more now than compared to before. So how are the taxes? How will I be taxed if I stay here more than a tourist? That's the breaking point really, because if you're a non-resident, the situation is quite easy on how you're being taxed actually. But people that are moving here and the situation changes completely. So then of course a study needs to be done on that particular company.
I mean, compared to America, because we've got some American buyers, I think you guys, as well as you, Sean, you've had an influx of Americans recently. The last year, we've really, that's 10%.
That's something very specific on the Americans that I could mention, is that the property tax in America is quite aggressive, I would say. It's a heavy burden for many property owners, and it can vary about anything between 0.5 to even 3% as a yearly tax on the value of the property. So that's a tough time.
Yes.
I don't get the feeling that people are moving here to avoid or evade.
No.
I think the golden visa's gone now, about to go. There's not. I mean, there are some products out there that are quite financially beneficial. But if you want to live with low tax, go to Dubai. Go somewhere else. But and this is the conversation I have with a lot of clients. They say, "Oh yeah, I really want to live in Marbella, but I'm going to get taxed like almost the same as I get taxed in the UK." And they say, "Well, stay in the UK then." You can't have it all.
Although for the high net worth, the UK is no longer a...
But we've got a lot of high net worth clients, and we have this debate all the time about, they say, "Oh, but if I move to Spain, it's going to cost me an extra 100,000 a year. What are you worth?" "I'm worth 20 million. Okay. But, I'm going to end up in Portugal instead. Do you want to be in Portugal? No. What are you doing? Why don't you buy a property that's, I don't know, 500,000 less and just enjoy life and be in the place you want to be in?" And we have a lot of these conversations.
Really?
We're not tax advisors, but come on, you got 20 years left on the planet. Why don't you spend it somewhere you want to be?
Yeah.
Well, we should be clear on that. I mean, Spain's not a tax haven.
No,
It's not. But there are always ways to optimize the situation for the clients, of course. We have the backhand law, we have the digital nomad. Things can,
And they're great products, aren't they, at the moment? For anyone who's that way inclined and has those skills, that's a great product. But I mean, we've just found that, just going back to the initial point about all the nationalities. I mean, I see all of these that come through the business. How sad am I? And I still see these international dialing codes. Think, where's that? Yeah. It could be like Bolivia or some, and you're like, good heavens.
Yeah.
And so in the last 4 weeks, we've dealt with, I think, 21 different nationalities just in inquiries, which is mad when you think about it. And I think, what's helped the business what's helped the market going forward. We've obviously had that post-COVID bump, but we've also had this Marbella becoming a global destination. A real melting pot of people and cultures. And I think a lot of money there's been a flight of money to this area, and I think a flight of money encourages further money.
I think you're right, Sean. I think at the end of the day, Marbella has become, certainly since COVID, a consolidated market for the luxury market. And so every person that's coming down here, when we talk about every aspect, rather than just the real estate that we're in, all the aspects of the restaurants, the quality of life, the schools that are here for everybody. So when you look at the whole package, it's certainly a destination that you'd want to come and live full time. And also it's mentioned now, it's incredible to see for the size of the area that we have here. It's mentioned on the lips of people in the same breath as the likes of Dubai, London, Miami. So it's incredible that our little town here has such a wide span right across the world at the moment in terms of its visibility. And I have to say a lot of that is down to the local town hall taking the effort. And Nia had mentioned about the American clients coming here. Our town hall have taken the advantage of working with the likes of Virtuoso, which is one of the biggest high net worth values in terms of property purchases and stuff, platform. So they're attracting that kind of clientele in. We have Nobu in Puente Romano Beach Resort there as well. So we're getting a lot of high net worth Americans coming in, seeing this place for the first time and absolutely falling in love with it as well. So it's fantastic for our little town to be on the world map in the way that it is at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's giving Monaco, Saint-Tropez, Dubai, Miami, it's giving us a real run for their money. We're finding that we've got a new lease of client that may have had a bad vibe about Marbella previously. It wasn't on their radar, it wasn't on their lap. Actually, they thought maybe it was a little bit tacky, and it was for a different clientele. And sometimes by accident, they've visited or they've been attending an event or in a group of people, and they've come along and they are so pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, we've had clients that have given up their Barbados villas that they've had for 30 years, where their family have holidayed and enjoyed for that amount of time. They've sold out to relocate here as a holiday home purchase.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I have to always ask them, what took you so long? You know, I mean, it's different for us. We've all been here for years and we've seen the evolution and the growth of this place. And it is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
At the rate that it's happened. Since COVID, it's supersonic. But even before this, you know, it's a powerhouse right now, a Mediterranean powerhouse. Before this, it was such a beautiful place to live.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go to those pocket areas that were a little bit busier and a little, had a different type of clientele there. But you still had the old town, the beaches and things like that. But now, every part of the town is on fire at 5-star level.
Yeah, it's taken on a whole new dimension, and I think this the article that the FT did last couple of days was very interesting because they called it Marbella version 2.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and I think that's happened since COVID, because we've had this fly through money, and a lot of people now, like you say, are recognizing it as a destination and a place they want to live rather than holiday.
Yeah,
and that's going to change our jobs and our businesses. You know, because you know, like you said at the start, we've had a lot of people in the last year or so looking to make that move. People who, since COVID, have realized, oh, actually, I only need to be in the office 1 day a month, or I don't need to be in the office at all. You know, so we've had a complete change in the demographic, really.
Have you found, Sean, though, as well, that the clients that are coming, they're afraid of this because there has been such a level of activity over the last 3 years? They keep asking, well, is this going to burst? When's it going to end? But the reality is, if you look at the figures, and we have a problem, which is a lack of stock. So we have high demand, we have a low level of supply, which is obviously driving prices up. So we're looking at medium term. We don't see any change or bust happening in the marketplace, because the reality is, if you go back to 2007, you know, there was 600,000 units being produced the year 2007. We're down, 300,000. So we're now looking at the region of only 60,000 units being produced. So it's a nice steady supply of the product that's coming in. And a lot of those purchases are being purchased with people's money. They're coming in, it's not being financed. So the bubble with the banks is not there as well. So the whole basis of the market is a lot more solid than it was going back 10 or 15 years.
That's the key, is they're using their own money.
Yeah.
Because in 2007, everyone was getting
70,
80, 90, 100 mortgages, and who wouldn't do it? And I think that created that speculative boom, which has always done in any market. But we've got a different type of boom, if it is a boom, in that it's people who are genuinely looking for a better life for themselves and their families. And that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And so I hope it doesn't get silly. I think we always go to little peaks and troughs, don't we, with pricing? There's always like a few greedy ones, then they come off with a little bit.
Isn't that?
Yeah, and I think it's bouncing along quite healthily at the moment. But in terms of, you look back 10 years and see what you could get for your money then. I mean, wow. So it's pricing a lot of people out, I think.
Yeah.
But isn't that just supply and demand, basic economics?
Yeah, but I also think these nationalities that are coming in, some of them find this zone incredibly well priced and inexpensive.
Yeah.
So there is a shock factor, but on the other end of the scale, because you show them a villa for 2 or 3 million, which is quite frankly entry level in Marbella, and they think that it's too cheap.
Yeah. Well, look, we did the same study. Like we did a study on the average price per square meter, and we're in the region of about just over 4,000, 4,200, which, in fairness, if you go back 10 years ago, it's more or less doubled. But when you start looking at those prices and comparing it to international other hotspot areas such as Monaco, the average price per square meter there, 50,000 euros a square meter. So there's still a lot of value that you can get here for really top class and top quality build product, and there's still room for growth down the road at the end of the day. So for us, we're very positive in terms of what's going to happen in the short term and the long term. We think that demand is going to stay very high. And so if you haven't bought a property already, then the second best day to do it is today. Start with this, or make the appointment today.
Sean, where do I sign? Oh my God.
And it's always interesting with the different perspectives, as you mentioned, Mia. Clientele that comes over here and they find certain price is actually cheap. But there's another interesting perspective also is that at least American clients that I talk to, they talk to me about, we always had a dream to move to Europe. But where in Europe, they weren't too sure. So Europe for Americans, or maybe also from certain Asian countries, is a big place. But they are interested in Europe, but they don't really know where to land their future. Italy, France, Spain, somewhere in Spain perhaps. But I think now that Marbella is becoming such a strong concept, and to catch that first spot on the list of European hotspots, so to speak, and then it's gonna be quite hard to stop us. Then I think when we reach that, if we haven't already
I
reached
think
number one.
for me, I mean, I love holidays. I mean, living here, it's really difficult. But I don't know about you guys. I find it really hard to go on holiday now
Yeah, I agree.
because I want better food, better restaurants, better entertainment, better beaches. Better beaches I can probably get if I get on a plane for 10 hours. But the rest of it, my level is here now. So I find it incredibly difficult to find it comparable. You know, and then you're going to spend X amount per night to be in that destination when actually you could just be at home.
Totally.
Yeah. So I find that once somebody visits, I'm pretty confident. If they say I need to see more countries, I'm like, no problem. You do that, knock yourself out.
I'm looking for snow when I'm on vacation. So look, something completely different.
Yeah. But it's such a quietly confident moment that as a real estate agent you can have, because when you do that tick box, and I talk about it all the time, I'm so repetitive about it, but I'm so passionate about it because whenever we take a client out, the first thing we would say to them is, doesn't matter how much money you've got, you are not going to tick every box. So do we all agree on that point? Let's go. Compromise, compromise, compromise. But actually, when you just look at the destination that we're looking at property within, that tick box is completely full. We're not missing anything. So for me, I think we're in a great position. My interest is where you guys think the market will be in 5 years from now.
Sure, I'm joining. I think just to touch on the American market again, because that's our second biggest group of buyers from last year. And if you lump the Americans and the Canadians together, they'd hate it. But that's a really significant area for us. And I think the feedback we get from North Americans is that they don't particularly like the politics back at home. I'm not going to get into politics. And they are sick and tired of taking their kids to a school with an armed guard outside. Yeah, as they don't feel it's a safe place to bring up their families. They come here, they can't believe it. They can't believe how important the family structure is. How you can have kids walking along the promenade and playing with their mates, and there's kind of no one supervising it because it's trusted that they're safe. So that's a huge benefit. And the Americans always were generally drawn to cities, weren't they? Like Barcelona, Madrid. And now they're finding Marbella, and we compare it, or we say it's the California of Europe. And a lot of people identify with that. A lot of people who know California will come here and go, actually, yeah, it feels the same. But it's in Europe. And of course, the Americans come here and they have Rome and Milan and Paris and London within 2.5 hours. And they're like, wow, all the culture in the world that we maybe haven't got back at home. So it's a massive area. And I think that's going to continue. That's at the moment, the Americans are second for us only behind the Brits.
Right.
And the Brits, you would have thought, would have come down a little bit in terms of demand because of particularly the golden visa and things like that, and not being part of the EU anymore. But there's still this appetite, isn't it?
Whatever you throw at them, they are like, it's like I'm a Celebrity on that last stretch where they're going up that this. And it is like that because okay, I still want to buy in Spain. I still want to buy in Spain because it's got so many attractive qualities, and it's really, really easy for a Brit to navigate living a life here.
Also, I think Eastern Europe, that's been a big growth area this year.
Yeah.
Has to notice that, obviously with the war in Ukraine, neighboring countries maybe getting a little bit nervous, looking for a safe haven for either their money or their families. I think there's been a glutted demand from those areas. That's for
that you find is always like when one market's slightly down, there's another one that comes up.
Yeah, that's huge. But listen, I think the other big thing we have to mention as well is, people are talking about prices and demand, lack of supply. It gives the impression that the pricing might go out of control in the medium term. But the reality is we have the new general plan being released. There's another 13 million square meters of land being released. So I think that would also then bring in further foreign investment, well, from national and international investment for new build. And I think that will also tame the price points as well, cool everything down. Yeah, people have more options then as well.
Hope so.
So we all hope that is the case.
What you don't want is a load of developers getting over greedy.
Correct.
And pricing themselves out of the market, because I think the market will continue to pay. The buyers will continue to pay to be in this amazing place. But I think there comes a point with everyone, doesn't there, where you just go,
Yeah, it's just too expensive.
hang on a minute.
Yeah, but we had an interesting point in Puente Romano. If we looked at Puente Romano going back 2 years ago, we only had 2 or 3 units that were available and screaming for stock. And what happened is that then some people come in, they bought all the units, they're refurbished, but they're putting them out at price points that even the wealthiest people in Europe are looking at it and going, hang on a second, this is even a little bit too, yeah. So we're seeing now that there's probably in the region of about 18 or 19 units sitting on the marketplace there and have done for quite some time. So we're seeing that exact fact. There's a point that anyone is going to reach where they won't pay over the odds for them. And in that area, we're seeing it first because we saw the fastest price growth in that area. And now they're topping off at that level. So which is a good sign because it shows there's a bit of reality in the market. And now we're starting to see some of those prices, units that were overpriced, starting to come down to a reasonable level again.
Do you think we as agents have a responsibility to be tougher with our listing strategy and pricing? Because obviously it's very easy to go into a listing and ask the vendor what they want, and they say, I want 2 million, and the house is worth 1.5.
Yeah.
Do you take on the listing at 2?
What we do, Sean, because at the end of the day, it's their asset, and they're giving you the opportunity to sell their home. But I think if you go and have that initial listings meeting with them, we will always show them the records of what's actually being sold. And we will sit down and we'll say, okay, so these are real market prices that have been achieved. Yeah, your neighbour has the house up for 2.5 million, but let's see how long he's on the market. So you sit down, I always feel there's a compromise to be reached with these people. So if you sit down and you say that to them, listen, you want to have a slightly speculative price, we would only take it on so long as there's agreement that we'll try it initially, a period of 2, maybe 3 months. But if there's no traction or genuine interest in that property, they have to agree with us that they will reduce it down to the price that we recommend it to. Because we don't want it sitting there, the property gets stale in the marketplace, and it's in everyone's interest that the property sells and moves up.
And then you start seeing discounts, don't you? And then everyone thinks, it's the best market.
There's inflated properties out there. There really is.
And I think a lot of agents have driven that. I mean, I could name 2 now, but I'm not going to. Who's basically, I'm sure they just pick a number out of a hat and go, yeah, let's call it 10 million.
I also think that the investors that are behind that are excited about the market. There's lots of people in the investment sector that want to be the new high price point of the development and break a record. And that's happening, for a development in La Quinta. Called El Rojo Alto. This is a sleepy little villa development that's really just frequented by very old, calm retirees.
Yeah.
Okay, switch that because COVID's happened. Half of them are under construction. They're going back on the market at absolutely incredible price points with incredible qualities. And they're selling. They are selling. But again, it's a gated community. So I wonder if that's got a lot to answer for, because a gated community is quite rare within the Marbella area. Yeah.
It's interesting.
So it is.
Because I think we have a part to play. I mean, I look at the price changes that come through off all our different portals that we use and shared databases. And the stuff that I've thought, that's a bit pricey. Maybe there's a little 5% discount now. And you think, okay, that's better. But for clients, I think it's really difficult for them to navigate all this, because what is value? And obviously one person's idea of value might be completely different to another person's. But I think this is where I think they need the guidance of a really good agent who knows that market inside and out, who knows when pricing isn't right, who knows what they're doing. And this is where the LPA comes in.
Yeah, you've got to have some regulation. I mean, for me, I find that when you're going to list a property, there's 2 main questions. Do you want to sell or do you need to sell? Because which category are you in? If you have to get a sale within the next 3 to 6 months, we need to price this right.
Correct.
And the only way to do it, quite honestly, is to be the cheapest in the development, the cheapest on the road. There is no other way that you're going to get the hits on the website, the views, the requests to view, the other agencies coming to your door, unless you have a property that is at market value or even better below. And then you've got the client that's thinking, I've just renovated it, I'm in no rush. You know, I want it on at this price.
But isn't that also related to what needs to be changed, or what kind of changes we could see? Maybe not on let's say on the who's buying or the type of properties that will be on offer here in 5 years from now, but actually how the market can change to improve, so we can keep track of the demands of the clients that are coming, the new clientele that's coming from America, from other countries, on talking about how to set a price on a listing. Yeah. We don't have data-driven prices here. We don't have transparency on the market. We don't have digitalization completely here. I'm talking about the real estate.
A lot of it is gut feel and experience, isn't it? And if you're going out with an agent who's been here for 5 minutes.
And, having that access to sold properties, because now we can have that through notarized documents and the platforms that are out there, that gives you some insight into what has sold at what price. And that's a great help. But ultimately, everybody should be valuing a property on price per square meter. That's how it should be happening. And if the agent isn't doing that, they're not doing it correctly.
Absolutely.
And that is the reason for LPA here. I think it's such a vital role in professionalizing the whole market, because as we know that maybe not everyone not all agents have a conversation like you, Sean, with a vendor to find that right price. They are taking on a listing for 3 million just because the vendor wants to. And then you're on for viewings with a client and get confused about the pricing. I think that there are many things to keep because this is such a high demand market now, high net worth market. And I think it's important that we try to make also the changes in the industry to keep the same standard.
I think just to touch on your point about where's it going to be in 5 years' time, where's the market moving, what's going to happen. I think I see it being steady growth, and I hope it is steady growth. I hope it isn't because nobody wants to see that. But I think demand is there for sure. The only thing I get concerned about with this place is the infrastructure. There's a danger when things are moving along at the pace they are that these destinations start to eat themselves alive. And I'd hate to see that in Marbella because it is amazing. And I think what I see so far is this investment in really good quality products and services. But everyone else has got to play their part as well. We've got to have the road network. We've got to have public transport, better public transport, because otherwise it's just going to be clogged.
I mean, I would say the public transport is probably the key element to change, because ultimately, if you want to be on this coast, you need to have a car. Unless you're going to the east side, of course, then you've got the facility of the train. But it is crazy that this coastline is so popular with so many nationalities. Like you said, you've dealt with 21 different nationalities in the last week, and there is no real form of public transport. So that, I think, is a highlight that needs to be spoken with.
Absolutely.
The powers that be.
Yeah, I think if that infrastructure is aligned with the growth of, it's been a criticism of this area for so long that they build apartments, they build villas, and then, we haven't got a road to that roundabout.
Yeah. Well, do you remember when they did the San Pedro bypass?
God, it took about 10 years.
And it took ages. I mean, I was talking about it with clients for years, and then it arrived, and I thought, this is too much road. We don't need all this road. Now it's just
another one.
And now we need another one. I'm going around the back. Because it's
completely agree with you, Sean, about the infrastructure is so important. But it's not only, I have conversations with clients that want to put their kids to school. And we will reach a point when we don't have enough schools. Yeah. So we need another school.
Yes.
So there needs to be land for schooling.
Yes.
And then you have families that are moving here and they're living here. Their kids wants to be involved in sport activities, in football, in tennis, whatever that is. We don't have enough football pitches in Marbella at the moment. So these are also important things to build the infrastructure so it can actually meet the expectations and the needs of the new clientele moving in. And that is, and all the rest of the services as well, really. In banking, insurance, everything.
I think we're okay for golf courses, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we could probably lose a couple, couldn't we, and build a couple more schools. And So if I may, can I ask you some quick fire questions?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I'd just like to know your opinions on certain things. So I'll just go round the table. If it's
Start with
okay.
Peter first. Yeah.
Peter, Pear.
You get the lawyer down.
Okay.
We'll just follow.
Biggest mistake buyers make?
They act too quickly sometimes, and that's what I usually say. If they have been doing the research for months, usually you have all the area guides that you guys do. I mean, you have a lot of information to digest before you even travel here, and then in the final day, in the final moments, maybe they just need to consider all aspects of the transaction before they move ahead and sign that first contract, just to make sure that everything is well thought through before they enter the buying process. And we can see that sometimes we had to fix a few things, but maybe not everyone thought through.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Thank you so much. One thing that Marbella has that no other destination
I
has.
thought I was going to get the same question.
No, that would be too
no.
easy.
He's out taking your feature.
Go on, it's quick.
One thing. Do you know what? I think it's cosmopolitan. That's the key for me. I go to like Court and Glare's in the supermarket there, and you hear so many different languages and nationalities. I don't even know what they are half the time. I find that fascinating. And what really, I'm going to get a bit political, what really upsets me is the fact that people in my position at the age of 31 or whatever I was when I came over here in the UK now can't do what I did. They can't come over here and find a life and start a bit. Well, they can, but it's far more difficult. Start a business, all in love, get married, whatever. And I just think that's so sad.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've said my piece.
Okay.
So how have you got from me there?
Yeah, I know. Oh, blimey.
There's a check for 5 million you've got to buy by the end of the day.
Oh, that's it.
There's one answer.
Huh?
No, well, I'm going to get all of your answers now.
Panorama first of all.
Obviously. Me too.
Good. It's difficult. It depends what the client is looking for, but for me, I guess
you.
if I'm going to buy with 5 million, I think I would want to be as close to the Golden Mile as possible. I live in that area at the moment, but I still believe in it. I think it has some of the best amenities possible, and the likes of Cascada de Camahan, you have obviously Sierra Blanca, but with 5 million, unfortunately, it's a difficult area to purchase in at that moment for that budget. There are some older properties in the market that may come in at that level, but there's some beautiful new apartment buildings that have been built in the last 5 or 10 years. And for that kind of money, you can get a huge duplex apartment, more than 350 square meters, massive outside area. And the beauty about those units, you can just close them, lock them up, and you don't have to worry about it. So long as you keep paying
Apartment over villa then?
Yeah, personally for me, because I'm lazy.
Yeah. Villa. No, I get that completely.
Yeah.
Sean, version 2.
5 million.
5 million. You got till 5 o'clock. TikTok.
Do you know what? I'm very, very happy where I am. So I'm not even sure if I'd probably just bank it or invest.
Yeah, but if you had to spend it.
If I had to spend it by 5 o'clock today,
now.
I would probably look for some not distressed, but some assets that could do with a little bit of a lick of paint.
Right.
So I'd look at it more from the investment angle because I'm happy where I am.
Yeah.
So I would look at stuff that I could add a bit of value to.
Yeah.
Or maybe build something of my own.
Okay.
In areas that I think still represent a bit of a pocket of value. Golden Mile, I've lived on the Golden Mile. I love it. It's an amazing, amazing location. But now when I go back into the hills at the end of the day, it's like,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And if I had 2 young kids, I wouldn't do it
Yeah.
because I'd be up and down that road all day. But I think
That's me.
so. I think location is critical, but I'd probably do a bit of investing.
Investing. You'd invest it. Okay. Peter.
I was thinking, if I had time, I'm lucky.
I know, you've got to exclude where you live. This is a luxury purchase, a €5 million check.
Well, so I would buy something. So let's say I would move then. I have to move because I'm buying something for 5 million, right? So I'm right now in San Pedro Beach. I love that area. Another favorite area of mine is Costalita on the new Golden Mile. That I like the beach also over here. And I'll probably get something really decent for 5 million in Costalita.
I have just a thing for you, Pete.
All right. Well, you give me the money, I'll talk to Sean. It would be a beachside villa in Costalita somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much, all of you, experts.
I've just got to butt in. What would you do with 5 million?
Oh, good point.
That's a really good question. I'm in the hills And I've got 2 children and I'm driving up and down the road at the moment.
So you'd hire a chauffeur.
It's a nightmare. But I'm actually waiting for a project to be finished on the Golden Mile, which I hope to be moving to
Oh,
when it's completed.
With 3 short letters.
Yeah.
Yes. And that will be a very different way of living because
be amazing,
it
yeah.
will be an apartment effectively. So I don't know if it will work out. I've got no idea. But annoyingly, my children will be that much older where I've missed the boat on both sides because I could have done with an apartment complex when they were younger. And as you get older children, you can enjoy a villa. So I've done it the other way around, but let's see. But I just think there is no place. Benavis, Marbella, I think that they are the areas to invest in. And actually, any client that any of us speak to over the last 10 years, even if they've put their finger in the air and they've bought something, they've all made money on it. Everything's gone up in value. I haven't got a single client that's lost money. So it's just such a safe environment. It's just wherever you feel happy. But yeah, I can't help a little investment every now and then.
Very good. So Sean, write that check.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But thank you all very much. Sean Peter from Franke de la Fuente. It's been a pleasure. I've been Mia Pearlman from LPA. Thank you for watching and see you next time.